Hi, welcome to Business is Personal. My name is Dr. Corrie and I'm here with Sharjeel Akhtar. And Sharjeel is the General Manager of Business Development for the Middle East's first e-commerce dedicated free zone. Is that right?
That's right.
Wow, that's amazing. What an amazing opportunity that is.
It is, absolutely.
So what is it that an e-commerce free zone does that, we've got a lot of different free zones, obviously, in Dubai. You throw a rock, you hit a free zone in Dubai.
Right.
Okay, so we've got a new free zone in the UAE.
Yeah.
What is your differentiator?
Okay, so see, like you said, there are many free zones, and there are about 50 plus that exist in the Middle East.
Right.
And every single one targeted something or the other.
Right.
You have the Media City for media companies, you have Silicon Oasis for the tech companies, you have Academic City for educational institutions.
Exactly.
There was a gap in the market, and this was, we identified it about roughly 5-6 years ago, that there was a need for an e-commerce dedicated free zone.
Okay.
Because at that time, Amazon was not in the region.
Right.
Newman was still starting out.
Right.
So the footprint of e-commerce overall was non-existent.
Right.
So we had our own projections and forecasts in terms of where industries and trends would be headed on a regional, on a global, and on a local level.
Right.
But no one could have forecasted last year,
the
pandemic. So it proved to be good to us. And good for us.
Yeah, sure. Well, now there's a lot of different offerings in the UAE for e-com licensing now.
Yeah.
Right. A number of different free zones are offering different kinds of licensing to attract people that want to have like an e-commerce license, but not have a visa, or if they need a visa, they can do that too.
Right.
Like there's Sharjeel Media.
Right.
And there's Fujairah Creative Zone is also pretty big on that. So what is it? What's your offering that's kind of unique?
Well, it's the location.
Okay.
Right next to Dubai International Airport.
That's brilliant.
So location is one, and then it's the environment.
Yeah.
When you're talking about e-commerce, when you're talking about tech, you have to look at the established players on the global scale. You look at the North American or the European markets. You have the likes of Silicon Valley.
Right.
So how do you bring that over here? You have to replicate the work culture. So if someone's dressed like ourselves, then there could be someone else that's dressed in shorts and flip-flops, and it's okay.
It's true. Have you been to the offices of like Talabat and Tradeling and Just Life and like the Born Dubai e-com platforms?
It's getting there. It's getting there, but there still isn't that destination for all of those players to just converge and just be in an open environment where Dubai can actually start attracting talent from the actual Silicon Valley.
Yeah, sure. Well, look, so I'm a big believer in the fact that work-life balance is a myth. I've said that many, many times, and so for me, it's work-life blend, right? And e-commerce is really one of the platforms and one of the expressions of business that feeds that very well. That work-life blend is
business is personal, right?
Yes, exactly.
Absolutely.
So we're never going to punch out of our jobs.
Yeah.
Our jobs are our social roles. That's how we provide value to society in exchange for the money that we can feed our families and educate our kids and care for our parents, right?
Yeah.
So what do you think has changed in the last maybe 5 years in e-commerce that has affected the way that people live their work?
So first of all, consumer behavior has changed significantly, and the way we consume overall has completely shifted. When we were perfectly fine with waiting days to weeks or something, it's no longer the case.
Well, I know, it's true. I'll do this too on Noon or Amazon. I'll click, boom, buy, and it'll deliver sometimes that day.
Yeah.
And we've got some great places like Namshi that will deliver that day.
Right.
If my wife wants a dress for dinner that night and she finds it at breakfast that morning, she can be wearing it by dinner. It's amazing.
Similarly, now it's frustrating for me that I want something and it's not available in the instant delivery section, and it comes to me tomorrow. I'm like, why wait till tomorrow?
Or heaven forbid you'd have to wait 4 days
exactly
to get anything anymore.
So the trend and how we consume has completely changed. And slowly we're seeing that companies and brands and organizations are responding to that.
Right.
Now, when, for instance, there was a time period when I was talking to various different companies that, hey, listen, make this move to e-commerce, that this is the future. And they were so comfortable in their offline that, hey, listen, e-commerce is a fraction of a % of our profits. So why would we invest in it at this point? The Middle East is not ready for it. And then the pandemic hit.
Right.
So the industries that we had forecasted would be growing at double digits are now growing at triple digits.
Right, of course.
Ones that we never forecasted would be ever moving online are now actively doing so.
No, it's
for
true.
their survival.
For me, during COVID, during the lockdown, my wife and I spent 72 days inside our house without leaving the front door.
Exactly.
First of all, it was kind of frustrating, right? Like the first week, 10 days, it was like, oh, this is so annoying. And then we kind of made a game of it, which is why the 72 days. We lasted 72 days before we actually had to go outside because we kind of made a game of it. We're like, oh, I wonder what else we could get online. So things like sporting equipment and fresh vegetables. That's when companies, like it was amazing. We could get absolutely everything, and companies were pivoting very quickly. And even myself as a service provider, I provide a lot of leadership training and executive coaching. I started doing coaching online. I started producing courses, and I built my own online leadership academy because that's what you do on a Tuesday afternoon when you don't have anywhere else to go. Right? So the need is there, and it absolutely does change the way that we view our work when we have that e-commerce expression available to us.
Absolutely. And brands have also changed something. There is more trust that the consumer has now in terms of shopping online. If we talk about the last 5 years, we look at now, that is one significant thing, especially in the Middle East.
Okay, but is that trust in the brand, or is that trust in the most recent social proof? Okay, so here's my point. It's like when I go to Amazon and I'm looking at a product, okay, typically what I'll do is I'll scroll down and look at the reviews, but I won't actually read the whole review. I'll look at the number of stars on the first 3 reviews, and if they're all 5 stars, I click buy. Okay, I don't read the comment, but if the first comment has like 2 stars and it says not worth it, I don't know anything about that person. I don't know where they are in the world. I don't know what they used the product for. Maybe they used it improperly. They didn't read the instruction manual. I don't care. If it's 2 stars, I'm not going to buy it. Right? So how much of that trust is trust in the brand, and how much of that trust is trust in social proof?
So when you're talking about Amazon, for instance, you're talking about a marketplace where you have a bunch of different players and sellers that are selling on that platform.
Right.
So in that scenario, sure, you're going to go to the reviews and you're going to check out, is this particular seller worth your trust? But then when we're talking about standalone brands who have built that reputation and who have built that trust with the consumer, then you're not really looking at the review, you're looking at the name of who you're buying from.
Right, that's fine for luxury brands and global brands, but what about local brands that don't have that yet?
They're getting there. That's the thing, that's what they're working on. That's what we see, that many companies are now focusing on more and more to build that credibility. Like, so for instance, if we have an Amazon, we have a local player called Noon as well that has now established a legitimacy in the market that is right up there with the Amazon in a very short amount of time. And you look at Namshi, it's a similar story. So it's getting there, and more players and more industries, different industries, are moving towards e-commerce. And the only thing that they see now, that how they can differentiate their product, is to build that trust and build that legitimacy with the consumer.
So let's take this from the end, because if you have an entrepreneur now that's got maybe their own products, okay, so burgeoning local fashionista or whatever, they're looking at 3 options. They're either going to sell directly on their own e-commerce, they're going to join an e-commerce platform that exists, or they're going to create an e-commerce platform for themselves and others like them. Where should they start?
Sell on the platform that exists already.
Really jump on a platform, and then if they get the volume, create their own standalone, and then maybe create a platform out of their standalone. Is that the progression?
So creating your own platform, it requires a lot of time, requires a lot of resources, and it requires a lot of investment. I mean, that's why you don't see Amazons popping up every other day, right?
Right.
So selling on the platform for beginners and entrepreneurs would be the best bet, and then eventually migrating to their own brand, because the value of having your own brand.com, it's irreplaceable.
That's true.
Because then you own the data of your customers. That's something you don't have in a marketplace. And then you can target your strategies, and you understand their buying patterns and tweak it accordingly.
Right.
And then lastly, if you really get big, then sure, eventually 5-10 years down the line,
invite other players to your platform. So I know a lot of entrepreneurs that are competing for talent, actually, and attracting and retaining talent digitally in any digital discipline in this market has been very difficult over the last little while, and e-commerce is not an exception to that. So what advice do you have for entrepreneurs that, you know, they're starting out, they don't have massive amounts of VC cash, right, but they're trying to attract and retain good talent to build their platforms or build their e-commerce?
Well, first of all, whether you're on a small scale or whether you're a very massive organization, when you think about Apple, when you think about Google, when you think about the Facebooks of the world, one thing they all have in common is the culture that they have.
Right.
Is that at the end of the day, we see the brands because the people behind the brand have built it so well.
Right.
So taking care of your people, even if it's one employee or if it's 50 employees, understanding who are the leaders that you have right now on the table that will be leading the charge 5 years from now is very, very important. Because this is from the management.
Do you think it's realistic though to expect that you're going to retain talent in e-commerce for more than 5 years?
Well, it doesn't have to be unrealistic. At the end of the day, when even when, for instance, when I'm looking for talent of e-commerce, or when we're looking for talent for any partners that we have, then this is one of the biggest issues that the resumes that are coming in, it's 6 months, a year, no one sticks around because they don't have a reason to stay. So maybe from a recruitment perspective, we need to change how we approach things. We've been revolutionizing each and every aspect of the consumer journey. Why not change the employee journey as well?
Right.
Veer away from share your resume and cover letter to let's have a conversation.
Right. Well, that's very much up my alley, right? You know, I wrote a book called Business is Personal, right? And it's all about the fact that we don't work jobs. These are not our jobs, these are our social roles, and it's going to govern at least half or more of your waking life, right? So it should be as meaningful as possible. If you want to learn leadership, really good leadership, lead volunteers, right? Because they're the people that you don't have money to bribe them with.
Exactly.
You have to bribe them with meaning.
Right.
Right? And it's a bit like running, I don't know if you're in the NGO world, I'm in the NGO world.
Yeah,
so I have been for the last 23 years, actually.
Yeah.
I've been in the NGO world and always running one kind of organization or another. And I'm the chairman of the board for an NGO that works in relief and development in Yemen at the moment. And we have such great staff, but we can't bribe them. Like we don't have money to do that. As a matter of fact, we're judged by our donors on the amount of money that we don't pay our people, right? Our ability to keep money flowing in is based on our ability to keep as much of it as we can flowing out and trapping as little of it as we can in general and administrative and salary expenses. So
because that's about the passion, right?
Yes, of course. Yes.
At the end of the day, if you give people an environment where they're passionate, or give them something to believe in, then it won't be work for them.
So what are you passionate about? What's your NGO?
So when I felt that my life was getting a little too capitalistic, to just be
you had just too much money lying around. Is that the problem?
Hopefully one day, but no. So what I wanted to do was at the same time in some way give back. It's very important that, if not everyone is fortunate enough to have a job that they love. I am, but sometimes it doesn't have some elements of the passion that you have.
Right.
So to get those creative juices flowing, to get that passion going, it's very important to do something on the side that you're passionate about and you don't really necessarily have any monetary gain from. So one thing that I'm also doing is I'm also part of an NGO. I'm the board advisor for a UK-based foundation called Dean Trust International.
Oh, fantastic.
So what we're focusing on is South Asia, specifically, and African markets as well. We've built a hospital that caters to about 60,000 people.
Wow.
In a village in Pakistan.
It's amazing.
Yeah, and it's free healthcare, free treatment, free everything.
It's all subsidized, right? Is it private donors or government?
It's mostly private.
Okay.
We're speaking to some governments as well to support the project now.
Yeah.
But the idea was, because before this hospital was there, what used to happen, especially when it came to pregnancies and deliveries, was that it was a midwives type of a culture there.
Yeah.
So it led to a lot of infections, led to a lot of mortalities. So when we built that hospital, now at least people have a safe and proper location where they can just get their deliveries done at the same time. Get themselves treated on any general health hazards that they may have.
Yeah, that's amazing.
So that's one thing that we're doing, and another thing that we're doing is we're building an entire community of different houses. So moving people away from houses that comprise of just mud, basically, and mud and sticks and stones, and into actual vicinities that have all different kinds of facilities, such as something that we take for granted.
Yeah, 100%.
Just a sanitized and a humane way of living that should be the norm, but unfortunately isn't.
No, we've been involved in that as well in Yemen. Just electrification, solar electrification, rural projects, and then just sanitization, running water, and things like that.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's the basics that we all take for granted. That
it starts small, just planting different water wells, and and it slowly builds up.
Yeah.
So
it's a far reach from e-commerce, isn't it?
Yeah, right.
If only there was an app for that.
Yeah,
that would be great. It's funny because we think of those worlds as very, very far apart, but they're actually really not.
They're not.
In Yemen, people they can struggle to find clean water. They can struggle to get health care. They can struggle to get food, but they've all got a mobile phone.
Yeah.
And they've all got access to the internet, and they're all on these platforms, social media platforms, where they're able to communicate with one another, and it's very strange.
And that's the weird aspect of it, isn't it? That we have access to these facilities, but not the bare ones, and not the bare minimum that we actually need. Another reason this project was I've been a part of it for about 5-6 years now.
Yeah.
And one of the main reasons that it was so attractive for me is because it started off being very personal.
Yeah.
This hospital is actually named after my father.
Oh wow.
So he was an entertainer in Pakistan.
Oh really?
Yeah, he was an actor. So just in his memory, we built this hospital that caters to.
What an amazing legacy! That's so cool.
Yeah.
Wow, very good.
So that's why it's very important that to have something to be so passionate about, and if we can bring that into the workplace somehow, to where the management can realize who your future leaders are, and at the same time, it's a relationship that goes both ways.
Right.
In every interview, almost every interview that we sit in now, the question is asked: where do you see yourself 5 years from now?
Right.
But and we come up with these inspirational answers.
Wow.
But then as soon as we start the job, it kind of goes in the back burner, and you just kind of forget about it.
So we're in the need now we're in the market for a passionate, entrepreneurial-minded e-commerce developer who can provide an avenue for people to find clean water, healthcare, and food that they don't have with the mobile phones that they do have. Thank you so much, Sharjeel, for being with us. It's been an amazing conversation. I really appreciate your company.
Thank you very much for having me.